Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. This is the Marketing GC, Monday, March 22nd. So we will start with the agenda. All right, Indri, you're up first.
Hi, Todd. So my question was related to slide 22. In mid-market 4,000 ABM motion. So number of accounts in opportunity stage seemed a bit low or lower in comparison with GL 4,300 list or ABM motion. So just wanted to get your view on this.
I could guess, but I think Emily Lears is on this call. And if she is, I wonder if, Emily, you have some thoughts on why our progress seems less as a percentage of the whole in mid-market.
Yeah, so my working theory is that in the GL 4300, we have a lot more sales input on the accounts that are added versus mid-market is very, we kind of took a hard line of being completely data driven. So we're only pulling in accounts that are like we have the data and we're matching to it. So I think there's going to be a bit of a longer play in mid-market to actually get to a point where we are all hyper-focused on the right accounts at the right time versus the GL 4300. If we're taking sales input, they're already looking at those accounts. So those will have kind of an accelerated focus or an accelerated cycle. But we are kind of reviewing our ICPs ahead of our quarterly refresh, just to make sure that we're kind of pulling in the right accounts for each segment.
Thanks, Emily.
Yeah.
I will also say that we sort of pointed this out in the presentation, but we are, I would say, we started this effort in late October last year. We're at the beginning of our ABM journey. And so it's going to take some time for these accounts to get engaged. Like Emily said, a lot of the accounts in the large segment were accounts that we were already aware of, whereas in mid-market, it's very much, here's the ICP, let's find all the accounts and let's try to start engaging them clean. So it's going to take some time to see how these this strategy plays out. Paul D.
Hey, Todd, thanks for taking the time this morning.
Yep.
Just a question in slide 30 in regards to the SAO numbers for the last 4 quarters. Looks like there's a decline every quarter, and I'm just curious, how can we change that trend?
Yeah, it's actually the decline is based on capacity, SDR capacity. So we hit our high watermark in Q1 of last year in terms of capacity. And then we started paring back capacity because we had overhired a bit with sort of the original plan for FY21, kind of the pre-pandemic, pre-Q4 FY20 plan. We had been hiring to that plan. We had excess capacity. And so the largest our SDR team ever was in Q1 of FY21. If you look at, we look at SDR efficiency metrics. We did a whole analysis on this. And it essentially maps these numbers, the SA numbers map to the capacity that we had. Our SDRs per person are just as productive, if not, they are actually more productive per person than they were at the beginning when we hit a high watermark of SAOs. We've reversed that course, and we are hiring, I think it was 8 or 10 additional SDRs this year to help meet the plan. But we're behind. So at the end of Q4, we had 8 SDRs. Our SDR team was about 45 people. So we had 8 of those move to sales, which is great. That's what we want to happen. But it means it was relatively short notice moves, which means we were down 8 to start this quarter, and we needed to hire more anyway to hit our goals this year. So we are behind on SAOs going into this quarter because we're behind on capacity. We've done a couple of things to try to make sure this never happens again. So one is we need to have better communication with sales and a better process for promotion so that we have a little time to make sure we have enough humans in those roles. Two is we've introduced what we call an associate SDR role. So as soon as we get all of our SDRs hired, we're going to hire, I believe it's 4 more associate SDRs, which will be helping us with, deduping leads and preparing territories and call sheets and things like that, but not actually in a territory. But we'll train them, and as soon as an SDR gets promoted, we'll have another one ready to go into that seat. So basically, net capacity is our problem, not performance of SDRs. And we have fixes in for that capacity, but we're now playing catch up on capacity, and we're behind. So month 1 in Q1 was pretty dramatically behind. I think that's a little bit of SCO and other things that we had because sales reps have to create the opportunity, or not create it, but accept the opportunity to get an SAO. So I think we were behind on both fronts. In March, the momentum is improving. So we will do more SAOs in March from our SDR org than in February, which is good. We're almost where we were in February now in March, and we've got a week and a half left. And as we get those SDRs up to speed, I'm hoping that April looks better, and then we're back on track by beginning of Q2. I think we've hired out of Evan or Hannah, if you're on, how many have we hired? So we've hired 15. So that means we have about 4 left to hire, 4 or 5 left to hire, and then the associates. So we've hired 15 in, a month and a half or less. So we're treading water and trying to get back to where we need to be. Does that make sense, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. We were trying to get back, is there a certain number we want to have from a capacity standpoint from an SAO per quarter? I see 1270. So is there, what is that number, Todd?
I don't have it off the top of my head. It's in our TD sales funnel target actual. We know exactly how many SAOs we need to get from SDRs. I just don't have that metric on the top of my head.
All right, great. Thanks. Glad to hear about the hiring. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And sorry that we're behind. I think it's a variety of circumstances, but we don't want to be behind. So we're working as fast as we can to catch up.
I guess last question, is there anything on the sales side we can do to help speed that up?
Hannah, Evan, anything that sales can help with on that front?
Communicate with the managers. Paul, as you know, the team structure shifted a little bit. So communicate with Maggie on planning and strategic targeting for new accounts. And then with Hannah on growth accounts, right? So we've split those 2 teams, and there's more resources divided out. So I would say communicate with them on target lists and specific activities that you want to see from those teams.
And then I think
planning.
The other one is as these new fresh SDRs get started, helping them to get up to speed as fast as possible. So, if you can spend a little extra time to help them understand our business better, that's all great.
Great. Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Evan.
Mm-hmm. All right, William.
I am curious, Todd, on slide 28, there is the graph in the bottom right of close one attribution over spend, and it says PMG costs. And I'm familiar with the PMG acronym.
It's not an acronym. It's the name of our digital vendor who manages our spend largely in digital. So PMG is the largest source of our digital spend, and they help us with our digital globally.
That would make sense why I couldn't Google for it.
Yeah. So that's what that is. All right. any additional questions? All right. Thank you, everybody, and have a good week.